The courthouse is eerily quiet as the judge slams the gavel, signaling the start of an event that will forever change the course of Billy Joe's life. His son, standing before the court, is trembling with fear as the judge begins to question him about the charges stacked against him. The tension in the room is palpable. Billy Joe watches from the sidelines, his knuckles white as he grips the edge of his seat. But just as the room seems to hold its breath, something unexpected happens. The judge, who had been calm until now, suddenly turns cold, his tone sharp. "You're dismissed," he says, pointing towards Billy Joe's son. The courtroom gasps as the young man is escorted out, his future uncertain. Billy Joe's heart sinks. His son, facing one of the toughest moments of his life, has just been humiliated. The look in Billy Joe's eyes tells the full story of a father who would do anything to protect his family. But there's more to this story than meets the eye. As the courtroom session ends, the camera lingers on Billy Joe's face, filled with determination and fear. Outside, a helicopter can be seen descending toward the courthouse, the sound of its blades growing louder with each passing second. This isn't just any helicopter. It's the one belonging to Billy Joe's wife, the very same woman whose power and influence could turn the tide of this entire situation. As the helicopter touches down, we know this is just the beginning of a larger battle, one where the stakes are higher than anyone could have imagined. What will Billy Joe do next? Will his family be able to overcome the obstacles ahead? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The atmosphere in the courtroom is tense, thick with the weight of what's about to unfold. Billy Joe and his son stand side by side, their fates hanging in the balance. The judge, an older man with a stern demeanor, sits at the bench, his eyes cold as he surveys the room. The jury, a mix of faces both familiar and indifferent, remains silent, awaiting the proceedings. The court reporter's fingers dance over the keys, capturing every word spoken. Billy Joe's son shifts nervously, his hands fidgeting with the collar of his shirt. He's just a kid, barely out of his teens, and yet he's here, accused of a crime that could change his life forever. The weight of the situation presses on him, and it shows. His face is pale, beads of sweat forming on his brow, his eyes darting nervously around the room. Billy Joe, who has been through tough times before, knows what it's like to face adversity, but nothing could have prepared him for this. As the proceedings begin, the prosecutor stands up. He's a tall man with a sharp suit and a sharp tongue, ready to make Billy Joe's son the scapegoat for a crime that, to be honest, still doesn't fully add up. His voice is booming as he makes his opening statements, accusing Billy Joe's son of involvement in a shady business deal gone wrong. The allegations sound serious. The evidence, however, is shaky at best. Billy Joe watches, clenching his jaw, his eyes narrowing as the prosecutor paints his son as a criminal. When it's their turn to speak, Billy Joe stands up. He's not a lawyer, not a man of great means, but his voice is steady and his words are clear. He talks about his son, not as a criminal, but as a young man who made mistakes, just like everyone does. He speaks from the heart, emphasizing the family values that have always guided them, how his son was raised with love and integrity, not with deceit. But despite his heartfelt plea, the judge remains indifferent, showing no signs of compassion. It's clear that the court and even the jury has already made up their minds. This is not going to be easy. Billy Joe's son looks up at him, their eyes meeting for a brief moment, and Billy Joe sees the fear in his son's eyes. He can't protect him now, not with the system against them. Just as the tension reaches its peak, the judge interrupts. "Enough," he barks, his voice carrying through the room like a clap of thunder. The judge motions for Billy Joe's son to step forward, and then the words that will change everything are spoken. "You're dismissed," the judge says flatly. The room falls into an eerie silence, broken only by the sound of the judge's gavel hitting the bench. Billy Joe's son stands frozen, his mouth open in disbelief. The room begins to buzz, whispers of confusion ripple through the crowd. Billy Joe, who had been standing tall, suddenly feels his knees weaken. His son is being expelled from the courtroom, humiliated in front of everyone. Billy Joe's heart races as his son is escorted out. The moment is surreal, and for a brief moment it feels like time stops. He wants to run after him to make sure his son is okay, but something inside him tells him to stay put. Something bigger is coming, something he isn't prepared for, but something he can't ignore. As the courtroom session ends, Billy Joe doesn't feel relief. He feels a growing sense of dread. His son's fate is uncertain, and the look in the judge's eyes tells him that the worst is yet to come. Then, without warning, the sound of a helicopter grows louder and louder, cutting through the air outside. Billy Joe's eyes turn toward the window. The unmistakable noise signals the arrival of his wife's helicopter. What does this mean? Why is she here? Billy Joe feels a chill run down his spine. He knows his wife's power, and he knows that this is just the beginning of a much larger, much darker story. Billy Joe steps out of the courtroom, his mind racing, but his body stiff with disbelief. He stands at the courthouse steps, the summer heat weighing heavily on him, his gaze drifting to the helicopter descending toward the parking lot. It's not just any helicopter, it's a symbol of power. A sleek high-end aircraft owned by none other than his wife, Rachel Joe. Her wealth and influence were part of what had initially drawn him to her, but today, those very assets might be the only thing that can save their son. As the helicopter touches down, Billy Joe's thoughts swirl. Rachel's arrival is anything but coincidental. She's not someone who makes appearances unless she has a plan, and that plan is often one he cannot even begin to fathom. Rachel had built an empire from the ground up, but at what cost? She operated in circles of power, pulling strings from behind the scenes, always in control, always prepared to make the hard choices. And yet, as his son stood in the courtroom, humiliated and dismissed, Billy Joe found himself questioning if their paths, his, Rachel's, and their son's, had diverged too far from their original intentions. The moment the helicopter lands, the doors open, and Rachel steps out, dressed in a business suit that exudes authority. Her icy blue eyes scan the surroundings, and her presence commands attention. She walks with purpose, heels clicking against the pavement with precision. Billy Joe doesn't move. He's rooted in place, watching her approach, knowing that this is the turning point in their fight. "Billy," Rachel's voice cuts through the air as she approaches him, her tone steady, almost cold. "I've been informed. What happened inside the courtroom was unacceptable." She looks past him to the courthouse steps, her eyes narrowing as if the building itself were an enemy. Billy Joe turns to face her, his eyes filled with a mix of exhaustion and determination. "I don't know what you can do, Rachel. The judge has made his decision. He doesn't care what I say or what anyone says. It's over." His voice cracks slightly, but he quickly regains his composure. Rachel studies him for a moment, her expression unreadable. She's always been the more pragmatic one in their marriage, the one who could see beyond emotions and focus solely on what needed to be done. And right now, that was the only thing Billy Joe needed to hear. "Billy, you're wrong," she says, a slight edge to her voice now. "This isn't over, not by a long shot." She turns her head, gesturing toward the helicopter, signaling for him to follow. They climb into the helicopter, and as the aircraft rises into the air, Billy Joe watches the courthouse shrink below them. The landscape changes as they fly over the city, but his thoughts remain grounded in the gravity of the situation. Rachel speaks to the pilot briefly, then turns her attention back to him. "I've already made some calls," she says, her voice now more serious, commanding. "The judge isn't as untouchable as he thinks. I have connections. We have leverage." Billy Joe feels his heart skip a beat. Rachel's words carry weight, and for the first time since the trial, he feels a glimmer of hope. But with that hope comes a nagging feeling he can't shake. What is the cost of the leverage she's speaking of? "The judge," Billy Joe begins, his voice trailing off. "What do you mean? How are you going to—" "I'm not going to play nice anymore," Rachel interrupts, her gaze fierce. "This is bigger than just your son. This is about us, Billy. This is about the power and influence we've built, and if we don't act fast, we'll lose it all. That judge needs to be put in his place, and I'm the one who can make that happen." Billy Joe listens in silence, processing the weight of her words. He's never been one to rely on wealth or power the way Rachel has, but now he finds himself caught in a situation where that very power may be their only chance at survival. It's clear that Rachel is already strategizing, preparing for a fight that goes beyond the courtroom. But even as Rachel lays out her plan, Billy Joe feels a sense of unease. The deeper they get into this battle, the more he realizes that the stakes are higher than just his son's future. Their entire world, built on secrets and power, is about to be tested in ways they never imagined. Billy Joe turns his gaze to the horizon, the vast city below him symbolizing everything he's tried to protect. But now the question isn't just about saving his son, it's about saving themselves from the consequences of their own actions. And as the helicopter soars higher, Billy Joe knows they're about to dive headfirst into a world of consequences they can't fully control. The helicopter cuts through the sky, and as the landscape below transforms into a sprawling cityscape, Billy Joe is left to wrestle with his thoughts. The silence between him and Rachel is heavy. Her presence is commanding, but there's a part of Billy Joe that remains distant, unsure about the lengths Rachel is willing to go to. They've walked the line between power and morality for years, but now it feels like that line is about to break. Rachel's voice breaks the silence. This isn't just about getting your son off the hook. This is about sending a message to everyone who dares challenge us. Her words are measured, calculated like they've been rehearsed. She continues, her gaze fixed on the horizon. We have resources, influence, things most people only dream of. But it's never been enough for them. It's always about control, Billy. It always has been. Billy Joe listens intently, but inside his unease deepens. He's spent years watching Rachel navigate this world of politics, business, and power. And now, for the first time, he's beginning to wonder what price they've truly paid for it. When they land in the private helipad, situated atop a high-rise building owned by one of Rachel's many business ventures, Billy Joe's thoughts remain clouded. He doesn't look at her as she strides confidently toward the elevator, her heels clicking with purpose. He's seen her in action countless times, but something about today feels different. They step into the lavish penthouse office, the walls lined with sleek modern artwork and views that stretch out over the city. Rachel walks toward her desk, her fingers dancing across her phone's screen. Billy Joe stands near the window, looking out at the skyline, feeling the weight of the choices ahead of them. He knows what Rachel is capable of. He's witnessed her manipulate situations to her advantage with frightening precision. But today, something's changed. Billy Joe feels the world shifting beneath him. Rachel, this isn't just about the judge or our son anymore. You're talking about more than just power. What's the cost? His voice is low, yet carries an edge of concern he's rarely shown. Rachel turns to face him, a slight smile on her lips. The cost? Billy, the cost is what it always is when you're in the game. You can't have power without making enemies. You can't play the game without putting everything on the line. Billy Joe turns back to the window, his thoughts a swirl of conflicting emotions. He knows Rachel's words are true. He's witnessed firsthand how the rich and powerful play their dangerous games, always willing to sacrifice everything for control. But what he can't reconcile is the price they've already paid. They've lost parts of themselves in this world, parts that will never return. Rachel's phone buzzes on the desk, cutting through the tension in the room. She picks it up, her fingers scrolling through a message, her face tightening as she reads. Billy Joe notices the change in her expression, the coldness, the focus. She's already moving on to the next step. The judge isn't our only problem, Rachel says, her voice colder now as she looks up from the phone. There are others involved, others who stand to lose as much as we do if things go south. I've already reached out to a few key players, people who can make this go away, but it's going to take more than money. It's going to take leverage. Billy Joe looks at her, confused. Leverage? What are you talking about? Rachel stands, walking to the window beside him, her hands clasped behind her back. We've always been good at making deals, Billy, but this isn't a normal deal. This is about putting people in a position where they have no choice but to act in our favor. And I'm not talking about the judge. This goes deeper. Billy Joe's stomach tightens. He can sense that Rachel is about to pull them into something far bigger than he ever anticipated. What do you mean, deeper? Rachel turns to him, her eyes now locking onto his with an intensity that sends a chill down his spine. I've made arrangements. I've arranged for certain details to come to light. The kind of details that could destroy careers, businesses, even people's lives. All of it points back to the judge, but this time the information is too valuable for him to ignore. We can destroy him from the inside out, Billy. Billy Joe stands motionless for a moment, processing what she's saying. It sounds like a well-calculated move, but something about it unsettles him. There's no turning back once they pull these strings. The consequences of taking this path could be devastating, not just for the judge, but for everyone involved. Rachel, I don't know if this is the right way to go about this, Billy Joe says, his voice quieter now, tinged with doubt. We're playing with fire, and what happens if it burns us? Rachel steps closer to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Billy, you've always known how to survive. I know you have doubts, but this is how we win. This is how we keep our family safe, how we protect everything we've built. We can't afford to lose now. Billy Joe stares out at the city below, his heart heavy with uncertainty. He knows she's right in some ways. The stakes have never been higher, and if they don't act now, they may lose everything. But the question remains, will they be able to live with the price of victory? The weight of Rachel's words hangs in the air as Billy Joe stands in silence, his eyes still fixed on the city below. The panoramic view from the penthouse is beautiful, but it only amplifies the internal storm brewing inside him. He's been part of this world for years now, surrounded by power, money, and influence. But now as the situation with his son intensifies, he feels the very foundation of his life beginning to crack. Is winning this battle worth the cost? Rachel's hand is still on his shoulder, a silent reminder that the path she's chosen is irreversible. Her determination is palpable, but Billy Joe can't help but feel a deepening sense of dread. The decisions they make now will not only impact their son's future, but will also set the tone for everything they've built. He turns to face her, his expression somber. Rachel, I know you're used to handling these things with precision. But this feels different. I'm not just talking about the judge anymore. I'm talking about the price we'll pay, the lives we'll destroy in the process. Is it really worth it? Rachel's eyes narrow, her lips pressed into a thin line. You're questioning me now. Her voice is colder, the calm exterior cracking ever so slightly. I'm the one who has kept this family safe. I'm the one who has kept our name intact. And you're questioning me when everything we've worked for is on the line. Billy Joe's breath catches in his throat. He's never seen her like this, so controlled, so unyielding. But behind her confidence, he sees something darker. A woman who will stop at nothing to maintain control, even if it means sacrificing the very thing that once mattered most to them, their morals, their integrity. I'm not questioning you, Billy Joe replies, his voice firm but filled with concern. I'm questioning the cost. This isn't just about power or money. It's about our soul, Rachel, and right now I'm afraid we're losing ours. There's a long pause between them, the tension so thick that it feels suffocating. Rachel looks at him, her expression unreadable. Finally, she speaks, her voice softer this time, but still laced with the authority that has defined her for so long. Billy, you don't understand. You're thinking too small. This isn't just about our soul, it's about survival. If we don't act now, everything we've built will come crashing down. This world doesn't play by rules. It plays by strength. Billy Joe can feel the weight of her words settle in his chest, but his heart is still heavy with doubt. The price of survival is steep, but is it worth it? Then what do we do? Billy Joe asks quietly, the finality in his voice signaling that he's willing to hear her out, despite his reservations. Rachel turns toward the desk, her fingers once again tapping at her phone screen. She's already moving on to the next phase of her plan, her mind working in overdrive, strategizing every possible move. I've already made arrangements, she says, her tone sharp. I've set things in motion, there's no turning back now. Billy Joe watches her as she speaks, her eyes locked on the screen, her mind elsewhere. He realizes that Rachel's decision is already made, that her strategy is already in motion. This is no longer a conversation about whether or not they should fight for their son. It's a conversation about how far they're willing to go to win. And for the first time in his life, Billy Joe feels like he's been swept up in something he can't control. "I trust you," Billy Joe says quietly, though the words feel hollow in his mouth. He's not sure if he truly does anymore. He's not sure if he trusts the woman standing before him, the woman who has spent years building an empire, only to tear it down with one reckless decision. Rachel looks at him, her eyes narrowing slightly, as if she's reading him. "You should," she replies, her voice colder now, more distant. "Because once we make this move, there's no going back. We're in this together, Billy. You understand that, don't you?" Billy Joe swallows hard. He doesn't know if he fully understands, but he knows one thing for sure. Whatever happens next, it will change them both forever. The next morning, the phone rings. Billy Joe's heart sinks as he picks it up. Rachel's voice is on the other end, steady as ever. "It's done. The judge has been compromised. We've got what we need." A chill runs through Billy Joe as he hears the words. He knows exactly what it means. They're playing a dangerous game now, one with no clear end. "I'll handle the rest," Rachel continues. "You just stay focused on our son. This will be over soon." Billy Joe's mind races as he sets the phone down. He can feel the weight of their decision crushing him. This isn't just a battle for his son's future anymore. It's a battle for their lives, and they're in too deep to back out now. Billy Joe leans back in his chair, staring blankly at the wall of the penthouse office. The city sprawls below him, a maze of glass and steel that seems so distant now, disconnected from the chaos of his own life. Rachel's words echo in his mind, "We've got what we need." But what does that really mean? What price has been paid for this leverage, and what's going to happen when the world learns about it? Just as the tension in the room threatens to crush him, there's a knock at the door. Billy Joe doesn't bother to get up. He knows who it is before the door even opens. A moment later, the door creaks open, and a man steps inside, dressed in a sharp suit, his face impassive but familiar. Billy Joe's instincts flare up as soon as he sees him. This is Michael Werner, an old associate of Rachel's, someone who has always been on the periphery of their lives but never quite in the center, until now. "Billy Joe," Michael says, his voice smooth but carrying an edge. "I think it's time we have a talk." Billy Joe straightens up in his chair, feeling the shift in the air. Michael's presence is never a good sign. He's a man with connections, but also a man who knows how to use those connections to his advantage. Billy Joe doesn't trust him, but he knows he has no choice but to listen. "What's this about?" Billy Joe asks, his voice guarded. Michael steps further into the room, closing the door behind him with a quiet click. He doesn't sit down, opting instead to remain standing, his eyes locked onto Billy Joe's. "I've been working behind the scenes for a while now, setting up the groundwork for what comes next," Michael says, his tone businesslike but with a hint of something darker underneath. "Rachel's been busy, but she's not the only one who can play the game. We've got enemies out there, Billy, and if we don't act fast, we'll all be exposed." Billy Joe feels a shiver run down his spine. Enemies. Exposed. These words mean more than just a threat. They carry the weight of consequences that Billy Joe is only beginning to comprehend. He's already in too deep, but now Michael is telling him that the stakes have gotten even higher. "What enemies?" Billy Joe asks, keeping his voice steady. "Who's out there? Who's behind all of this?" Michael pauses for a moment, his eyes glinting with something that almost resembles amusement. "You're not as naive as I thought, Billy. The judge isn't the only target. There are bigger fish in this pond, people who have the power to take everything down, and we've got leverage on them too." He lets that hang in the air, knowing full well the impact it has. Billy Joe's mind races. "Leverage," he repeats. "What are you talking about?" Michael finally sits down, crossing one leg over the other as he leans back in the chair. "I've been gathering information. Watching, listening, and waiting. We've got dirt on some of the most powerful people in this city. Politicians, businessmen, you name it. And now it's all in our hands." He looks at Billy Joe, waiting for the full weight of his words to sink in. Billy Joe feels a wave of nausea hit him. This is more than he bargained for. The stakes have been raised, and it's no longer just about saving his son. It's about surviving in a world that plays by rules he doesn't fully understand. He's always known that power comes at a price, but he never imagined it would cost him this much. "I didn't ask for this," Billy Joe mutters, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just want my son to be safe." Michael leans forward, his face serious now. "And that's what we're doing, Billy. We're keeping him safe. But to do that, we need to control the situation, control the narrative. Rachel's plan is already set in motion, but without the right allies, it could all fall apart." He pauses, his eyes narrowing. "That's where I come in." Billy Joe looks at him, skepticism written all over his face. "And what exactly are you offering me, Michael?" A sly smile creeps across Michael's lips. "You need protection. Your family needs protection. I can offer that, if you're willing to work with me. We can clean up this mess, but it's going to take a lot more than just Rachel's influence. It's going to take real power, political power, financial power, and yes, even criminal power." Billy Joe recoils slightly, his stomach churning. This is the point of no return. What Michael is suggesting is not just dangerous, it's a complete surrender to the world they've been trying to control, and yet he's right. Without someone like Michael by their side, they stand little chance of surviving this battle. Billy Joe stares at Michael, his mind grappling with the choices ahead. He never wanted this kind of life, but now it's staring him in the face, and there's no way out. "I'll think about it," Billy Joe finally says, his voice cold and distant. Michael stands up, nodding as he heads toward the door. "Think fast, Billy, the clock's ticking." As Michael leaves, Billy Joe sits in the silence that follows, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. There's no turning back now. If he wants to protect his family, he'll have to make deals with people like Michael and face the consequences of those choices. The following days blur together as Billy Joe is thrust deeper into a world he once only observed from the sidelines. The stakes have never been higher. Every phone call, every meeting, every decision now feels like it could determine the future of his family. He's watched Rachel make these kinds of deals for years, but now that he's involved, he's beginning to see how dangerous the game truly is. The weight of it presses on him, and the pressure is becoming unbearable. Rachel, ever the strategist, is already planning their next move. She's calm, methodical, and appears to have everything under control. But Billy Joe can see the strain starting to show in her eyes, the fatigue from juggling so many variables. The constant meetings, the phone calls, the backroom deals, they're all taking their toll. But for Rachel, this is just another day at the office. She's always thrived in this environment, playing the game with cold precision. But Billy Joe? He's not like her. He's a man who has spent his life in the shadows of this world, watching from afar, never fully embracing the cutthroat nature of it all. Now, with his son's future hanging in the balance, he finds himself pulled into a web of deceit and manipulation that he doesn't know how to escape. One evening, after a long day of tense negotiations and whispered conversations with Michael and others in their network, Billy Joe stands alone in the penthouse. The sun has just set, casting a warm golden hue over the city. He walks to the window and gazes out at the lights below, but his mind is elsewhere. His thoughts keep returning to his son, to the young man he raised, now caught in a legal nightmare. Billy Joe's phone buzzes, snapping him out of his reverie. He picks it up and sees a message from Rachel. "We need to talk, come to the office." Without hesitation, he grabs his coat and heads out, his mind racing. What could Rachel want to discuss now? The only thing he knows for sure is that things are getting more complicated with every passing hour. At the office, the atmosphere is colder than usual. Rachel is standing near the large glass window, looking out at the city below. Her posture is tense, her hands clasped behind her back as she surveys the lights far below. Billy Joe enters the room, and for the first time, he sees a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "What's going on?" he asks, his voice tight with worry. Rachel turns to face him, her expression serious. "We've run into problems. The judge, the one we've been targeting, he's not as easy to break as we thought. We've been digging into his past, trying to find leverage, but it's not enough." Her voice is steady, but Billy Joe can tell that something has shifted. The calm, collected woman he knows so well is now showing signs of stress. Billy Joe steps forward, his hand resting on the back of the chair near Rachel's desk. "What does that mean? Are we going to have to back off?" I don't want to make things worse for our son. Rachel looks at him, her eyes narrowing. No, we're not backing off, but we're going to have to take more drastic measures. She walks over to a set of file folders on the desk, flipping through them before pulling out one thick folder. She slides it across the table to Billy Joe. He picks it up, glancing at the title on the folder. It's a collection of documents detailing not just the judge's financial records, but also some very compromising information about his connections. Billy Joe's stomach twists as he scans the pages, seeing evidence of bribery, illegal deals, and connections to criminals who could turn everything upside down. This isn't just about the judge anymore, is it? Billy Joe says quietly, his voice filled with realization. This is about silencing anyone who stands in our way. Rachel looks at him with a cold, calculating gaze. That's the game, Billy. It's always been about silencing the opposition. We've played nice for long enough. If we want to win, we have to do whatever it takes. Billy Joe shakes his head, his hand gripping the edge of the desk. I didn't sign up for this. I never thought I'd have to be a part of something like this. Rachel's face softens for a moment, but then her steely determination returns. You're already part of it, and so is your son. We've put too much on the line to back down now. Billy Joe feels his pulse quicken. He's trapped. There's no way out now. The stakes are too high, and the forces they've set into motion are too dangerous to stop. What do you need me to do? He asks, his voice tight with resignation. Rachel doesn't hesitate. We need to meet with Michael again. He's got more resources at his disposal, and we're going to have to use every connection we have to make sure this goes in our favor. If we don't act quickly, we risk everything. Our family, your son's future. It's all on the line. Billy Joe exhales sharply, his mind reeling. This is it. They've crossed a line, and now there's no turning back. As he follows Rachel out of the office, he can't shake the nagging feeling that the further they go, the less of themselves they'll have left to hold on to. As they step into the elevator, Billy Joe feels the weight of the decisions settling on his shoulders. The world around them is moving at breakneck speed, and he's being pulled along, powerless to stop it. All he can do now is trust that Rachel's plan will work, even though deep down, he knows the cost may be too high for them to bear. The night falls quickly, casting shadows over the city as Billy Joe and Rachel sit in the dimly lit conference room of the high-rise. The tension is thick in the air. They are about to make a move that could change the course of everything, if they can pull it off. Billy Joe's mind is running in overdrive, but the more he thinks about it, the clearer it becomes. They have no choice. Rachel is already deep into the web, and now he's tangled in it too. The stakes have escalated far beyond what he ever imagined. Michael arrives with a file under his arm, his usual confident stride not matching the tension in the room. He places the file on the table between them, his eyes scanning both Billy Joe and Rachel with the calculated precision he's known for. I think we're finally ready to move forward, Michael says, his voice steady, but with an edge that hints at something more. He slides the file towards them. This is everything you need, our leverage, the judge's connections, the people who owe him favors, and the ones who could easily be persuaded to turn against him. Rachel leans forward, her fingers tracing the edges of the file, her eyes flicking over the contents. Billy Joe watches her closely, noting the faint smile playing at the corners of her lips. There's something unsettling about the way she examines the documents, almost like she's savoring the power she's about to wield. Is it enough? Billy Joe asks, his voice laced with doubt. Rachel doesn't answer immediately. Instead, she flips open the folder to a page containing a series of names and photographs, people the judge has worked with over the years, all tied to illegal activities that could ruin their lives in an instant. Billy Joe feels the weight of the documents as if they're weighing him down. It's all there. The bribery, the hidden accounts, the shady connections. They could bring everything crashing down. I have a few people in mind who can make some calls, Rachel says, looking up at Billy Joe. Her expression is calm, but he can see the fire burning behind her eyes. She's ready to push forward regardless of the cost. It's time to turn the tide in our favor. Billy Joe looks at the file, his thoughts a jumble of conflicting emotions. He wants to believe that they're doing the right thing, but deep down, a part of him wonders if they've already gone too far. The power they're about to unleash isn't something that can be easily controlled. He knows what's at stake. If Rachel's plan works, they'll have everything they've ever wanted. But if it fails, everything could come crashing down in an instant. "Do you trust him?" Billy Joe asks quietly, his gaze shifting to Michael, who has remained silent, watching the exchange between them. Michael meets his eyes, his expression hardening. "You don't have a choice but to trust me now. You know that." His words are blunt, but they carry a weight of finality. Rachel glances at Billy Joe, her eyes dark with determination. "This is the only way, Billy. We can't keep playing nice. We can't afford to wait for the world to catch up with us. If we want to keep our family safe, we have to take action now." Billy Joe's mind spins as he weighs the decision. He knows Rachel is right. This is no longer just about his son's future. This is about survival. The world they've been living in is a world where power isn't handed to you. It's taken. And if they want to protect their lives, their family, and everything they've built, they have to act decisively. There's no room for hesitation anymore. He takes a deep breath, letting the gravity of the moment settle over him. "What's the first step?" he asks, his voice steady, though the uncertainty still lingers in his chest. Rachel smiles, but it's not a comforting smile. It's a smile of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen, someone who is ready to play a game that few others would dare. "We start by making our presence felt," she says, her tone colder now. "We push the judge, apply pressure on the people he's worked with. We make them realize that turning against him is their only option, and when they crack, we'll have him right where we want him." Billy Joe looks at the file again, the names and faces of those who could be their key to winning this battle. He knows Rachel's strategy will work if they follow through, but he also knows that once they step down this path, there's no turning back. The world they've built, the lives they've lived, will be changed forever. He stands up slowly, the weight of his decisions settling in. "Let's do it," he says, his voice firm now, with a resolve he didn't know he had. The choice has been made. There's no going back. Rachel stands as well, her eyes flicking to Michael, signaling that it's time to execute the plan. "We move fast, no second guessing. We'll meet with our allies, tie up any loose ends. It's time to take control of this situation once and for all." Billy Joe follows Rachel and Michael out of the conference room, the heaviness of the moment sinking in. As they prepare for the next phase, he knows the final strategy is set in motion. But he also knows the risks, because in this world no one comes out of the game unscathed. And as the doors close behind them, Billy Joe realizes that no matter what happens, this will be the turning point of their lives. The tension in the room is palpable as Billy Joe, Rachel and Michael prepare for the confrontation they've been planning for weeks. The stakes are higher than ever. Billy Joe's mind races as he thinks about the cost of everything they've done, the path they've chosen, and the uncertain consequences that await them. The judge, the man they've been trying to corner, is walking into the lion's den. As the door opens, the judge strides in with an air of superiority, his associates following close behind. He's calm, composed, but Billy Joe can see the flicker of uncertainty behind his eyes. The judge knows he's at a crossroads. This meeting will determine whether he holds on to his power or loses it all. Rachel doesn't waste time. "Thank you for coming, Judge. We've made it clear to your associates that they can either help us or face the consequences. But we also want you to know, we're not here to make threats. We're here to offer you a solution." The judge sneers, his eyes narrowing. "I've been in this business long enough to know a threat when I see one, Mrs. Joe, and I don't take kindly to being manipulated." Billy Joe feels the weight of the moment. The judge isn't backing down. Rachel remains unfazed, her eyes never leaving his. "We're offering you a chance to keep everything you've worked for, but it requires cooperation. You either walk away with something, or you lose everything." The judge laughs coldly. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. This is a game of power, and you're playing with the wrong people." Rachel's voice is unwavering. "We've already won, Judge. You just haven't realized it yet." The judge's eyes flicker momentarily, his cool demeanor faltering. It's brief, but it's enough. Billy Joe senses that the judge's confidence is starting to crack. They have him cornered, and he knows it. "Do you think your leverage is enough?" the judge asks, his voice low. It's not just about leverage, Rachel replies. It's about survival. And you're the one who's on the losing side now. The judge stands up suddenly, his fists clenched. You're playing a dangerous game, Mrs. Joe. You'll regret this. But before he can say anything further, Billy Joe steps forward. It's too late for regrets, Judge. Your move. The room falls into a tense silence. The judge stares at Billy Joe, his eyes filled with defiance. But there's no turning back now. The game is on, and Billy Joe knows that whatever happens next will change everything. As the judge turns to leave, the reality of their situation sets in. The judge may be defeated for now, but the war is far from over. Rachel and Billy Joe have made their move, but what happens next will determine their fate and the cost of everything they've done.